Hey everyone, Mike Burke here with InsideRealEstatePhotography.com, and in this video I just want to share a little bit about my backstory of how I became a real estate photographer and how I've ended up at this point where I'm at today. So as you may or may not know, I've interviewed numerous other real estate photographers here on this channel to get a little bit about their story and their journey, how they became real estate photographers, how they built their business to become successful real estate photographers, etc. And it dawned on me that I've never really shared my own personal backstory here on the channel, which is kind of silly since I'm the one here talking all the time on the channel. So I thought this video needed to be made and needed to be on this channel, containing a little bit about my history and my backstory and how I've gotten to where I am today. So if you have any interest at all in finding out about my backstory, please continue on watching this video. If not, I'm not going to be offended at all if you click off this video right now. You might be able to relate to the story, you might be able to learn something from it. I think there's value in this content, and again, I think this does need to live on my channel because I'm the one talking to you guys all the time. You deserve to know something about my backstory if you're interested. So if that sounds interesting to you, let's get into it. Before we continue on with this video, I just want to share a quick word about our sponsor, Pixelmob. Are you looking for a professional real estate photo editor to help lighten your workload? Are you having a hard time finding a good and reliable editor or don't even know where to look for one? Or maybe you just personally struggle with editing and can't seem to achieve the professional end result that you've been looking for? If any of this sounds like you should definitely check out Pixelmob. Pixelmob helps take the guesswork out of finding a reputable editor and connects you with the right people to do the job. Pixelmob is an awesome website that links you up with available editors capable of doing just about any sort of real estate photo editing you can imagine, including HDR blending, Flambient, virtual staging, object removal, etc. The best part of all is that Pixelmob vets all the editors prior to allowing them onto their platform to ensure that they can indeed deliver on what they say they can. I also really like that there's a peer review system where photographers can rate the editors from 1 to 5 stars, giving you further tools and helping you choose the best editor to work with for your particular job. The editor also does not get paid until you are satisfied with your order. If you've ever been in the search for an editor and tried a few out, then you know full well there's been such a sore need for something like Pixelmob in our industry, and I really think a lot of us real estate photographers can benefit from this service. It's completely free to sign up, and if you use my link pixelmob.com/IREP, you will receive $5 in credit towards your first order, so there's no reason to at least not give it a try. You'll also find that link down in the description of this video. Alright, so I'm going to try my best to be super concise with this story, especially with the early parts of it before I became a real estate photographer. I don't want to bore you with too many details or anything like that, but I think my story really starts from when I was a little kid. I always was into creative stuff. I loved to draw and all that kind of stuff. And then when I got a little older, probably like 8, 9, around then, my family got a video camcorder. And that's when my sort of interest in cameras came to be. I would make little movies with it, like stop motion, like animation movies, and my friends and cousins and stuff, we would take the video camera out and make movies with it. You know, we'd all star in it and make like silly movies with it. And then I started skating, and we used to make skate videos all the time with my friends. So we were constantly messing with the camera, trying to even edit some of the videos like in camera and stuff like that. This was the days of like, this was like an SVHS tape. So like a picture of VHS tape, but like miniature, and you had to like take the tape out and put it into like the big VHS tape to play it on your VCR. So these were those days, like early 90s, that era. So then as I got into my later teenage years, like junior and senior year of high school, that kind of stuff, I kind of forgot all about the camera and really all about kind of creative stuff, and just got totally sucked up into the stuff teenagers get sucked up into, like hanging out with your friends and all that good stuff and goofing off. And then I went to college, and I didn't really know what I wanted to do when I went to college. I declared a business major role my freshman year of college because the only thing I could think of was owning my own business. That was the only thing I could think of that I wanted to do, which ironically I do now. So maybe I was onto something, I don't know. So that first year of college I spent at St. Joseph's University in Philadelphia, and it was a complete disaster. I failed out of school. I had a 1.4 GPA at the end of the year, something like that. So I ended up back home at my mom's house, and then enrolled in community college for that next fall semester, and got a job delivering pizzas. So I was working part-time, going to school part-time, and I was just trying to figure out what I wanted to do with my life. So it was at that point that I sort of remembered my love for movies. I've always loved movies, even from when I was a kid. I used to watch movies over and over and over again. I was obsessed with certain movies. I just loved movies. And again, you know, I used to make movies with the camcorder as a kid, and I started remembering all that, and I'm like, wow, like that's really something that I love, and that's something maybe that I want to pursue. So I actually took some money that I made delivering pizzas and went and bought a camcorder, but this was like, at that time, like a mini DV camcorder. So we're talking about the year 2000, 2001, around there. And I just started making videos again on my own. And that's when I realized I wanted to go to a film school or something like that, or an art school, so that I can pursue film and video making. And my dream at the time was to be in the movie business. So once I rediscovered that love for movies and making videos and being creative again, I knew that's what I wanted to do. My dream at the time was to get into the film industry and make Hollywood movies and stuff like that. That's really what I wanted to do at the time. But it was very motivating, and I was very excited about it. And my grades took a complete 180 turn. I actually ended up with like a 4.0 leaving community college. And I was applying to schools, like film schools, art programs like that in New York City and around my region. New York being very close to me, so obviously there's, you know, a lot of film industry stuff going on there. So I actually got into some of those, but I also got into Rutgers, the state university here in New Jersey, which was like a fraction of the cost. We're talking like maybe third of the cost or even less. So I ended up going there for economical reasons, and I'm glad I did. It was a great program. Mason Gross School of the Arts is the art school at Rutgers, and I concentrated in film and video production. So during my last year at Rutgers, which was like 2004 to 2005, I ended up getting an internship in New York City for a company that produced television shows, a television production company. And I shadowed the camera guy and helped him with whatever he needed during field shoots. I'd go out with them to shoot around the city and outside of the city even. And also this guy did sort of some After Effects work, which like motion graphics, animating certain, you know, photos and elements like that. If you're not familiar with what After Effects does, Adobe After Effects is what I'm talking about. So I was getting involved in that, and he was just like sort of showing me the ropes on that, and I was learning all these programs in school, so I was familiar with After Effects, which is actually what landed me this internship, because my teacher thought I had sort of like an aptitude for After Effects, which led her to think of this person she knew in the city that did it, and that's what landed me this internship. So at some point during the internship, they saw that I was capable of doing the work, so they just hired me. So I was going to school, but also going into the city on off. So I was only part-time that last year at school. I only needed a certain amount of credits to finish. So I was going in half the week to New York to, you know, work on After Effects and work on TV shows, and then the other half going to school. So once school was over and I graduated, I just continued working for this company since I already had a job there. It was great. So I had a job lined up right out of school. But I just took on a heavier workload because I didn't have school anymore. So I was just doing more for them and, you know, working full time, basically doing After Effects. I stopped, you know, assisting the camera guy, and I just strictly was going in working on After Effects, motion graphics stuff for these TV shows. We produced TV shows for VH1, like Bravo, Discovery Channel, Travel Channel, a bunch of different channels. And it was really cool for a while. I did that for about 5 years, and I sort of started getting burned out on it. It was pretty grueling, the television industry, and I felt like no one really appreciated anybody. It was kind of just like, I don't want to give it too bad of an impression. I mean, there was good people there. I don't want to make it seem like it wasn't good, but it, you know, it just wasn't for me, and I started getting burned out on it. And coincidentally, anyway, at that time, one of the main shows that I worked on got canceled, so they didn't really need me anymore. And at that point, I wanted to reassess what I was doing and maybe find a different path. So at this point, it was 2010. I was completely over the television industry. I didn't want to commute to New York anymore. I wasn't living there. I was commuting from here, which was an 1.5-hour train ride each way. So you're talking 3 hours a day alone of just commute. I was just done with it. And I was in my sort of late 20s at this point, I guess. Yeah, I was in my late 20s at this point. And I wanted to find something here in New Jersey that I could do, but still, within the stuff that I was passionate about and my skill set, which was media production, whether that be shooting, editing, whatever it may be, that was still what I was passionate about. And I really wanted to do that kind of work, but I wanted to do it here, which is a little bit more challenging than a place like New York City where it's more abundant. So the only thing I could really think of at that time to really jump into in a media production sort of setting where I live was the wedding video business. So actually, I had been shooting wedding videos sporadically over this time period from when I was in college, going back to almost 2002. I think was the first wedding video I ever shot, when I bought a camcorder when I was back in community college. So I started doing them. Obviously, they were really crappy at first. And then as I learned more and more skills, I was doing them on the side throughout college. And while I was working in New York, my name started spreading around. So I had a little bit of a ball rolling in that industry already. So I was like, all right, well, I can just dive into this full time now. I already have a little bit of a foundation already. People were just word of mouth calling me to do it. So I was doing maybe a few every year already. So I just decided to go all in on that. So I invested in some new camera gear to get this wedding video business off the ground. I started pursuing that more and more, but I had to work part-time jobs because obviously right off the bat, it wasn't enough to sustain myself. I wasn't getting enough jobs. So I was delivering food again. I worked a bunch of different jobs at the time, like part-time jobs, at stores and whatever, just to make ends meet. I started second shooting for weddings for other companies, and all this stuff started happening. But I was kind of not thrilled with the wedding thing either. If any of you out there have shot events and weddings, then you know what I'm talking about. It's a stressful thing, and just, I don't know. Like, I enjoyed the process of shooting it. I hated the editing part of it, and especially having a backlog of editing projects. It was just always stressful to me, and something that I kind of hated. And then in the meantime of all this going on, my cousin became a realtor. So I had this camera equipment, I had DSLRs, and I had wide angle lens, and I knew you needed that for shooting real estate. I knew nothing about anything else though. And I offered to her to shoot her real estate listings and let me take pictures for you. I did do quite a bit of photography stuff over the years too. I didn't really get into that, but I took a lot of photography classes in college. I basically had like a minor in that. And, but again, my focus was video and film sort of production stuff. And a lot of it goes hand in hand anyway, as you know. But I offered to shoot pictures for her, and I was unaware of any techniques for real estate photography. She got some listings, and I just started going there with my DSLR and a wide angle lens. Didn't research anything. There wasn't anywhere near the resources there is now, like this channel, or real estate photography was much more of a small thing then. A lot less people doing it. So it wasn't nearly what it is today, is what I'm trying to say. But anyway, I had no idea what I was doing in the beginning. I showed up with my camera, my wide angle lens. I went into the house with her, handheld, just walked around the house, taking shots that I thought looked good, handheld, one single frame shots, putting them in Lightroom, just, tweaking them up a little bit and sending them out. And that was the beginning of my real estate photography career. So I really started to like the real estate photography thing, even though I had no idea what I was doing. And I really didn't think that it could ever be a full-time gig in my wildest dreams. I didn't think anybody did it full-time, even though I'm sure there were people doing it full-time back then. I know there were, but I was unaware of them, and I didn't really think it was a full-time gig. So I was just focusing on my, sort of event, wedding, video sort of business, and pursuing that, still working part-time job, but just adding in real estate photography to make extra money. And then my cousin started giving my name out to other people. So then I started getting calls from other agents and started working with other agents. So that sort of snowball effect started happening, that spider web started branching out, and I was like, all right, now I'm getting more and more of this. So I started doing more and more of it, and more of my time started going into it, and I started learning more about it and learning how to shoot it properly and all that good stuff. So over the next couple years, it just started gaining steam. So after some time, I started building up a client roster, and I was like, all right, I really want to focus on this now as my main thing. I really like this type of work, and I'm not really too into this wedding thing anymore. It's just, like I said, stressful, and the editing and all that stuff, I was kind of over it and was really liking this a lot more. So I wanted to figure out a way to do that full time and also stop working these side jobs and really just strictly make money with my camera in my hands. As I said, that's really what my goal was. So at some point, I ran into my wife's friend we were out one day and ran into him, and my wife used to work for this real estate company that went belly up before I met her. And this guy also worked for that company as like sort of a real estate agent, and then after that went belly up. He later on started a real estate photography company, and which was just him at first, but he had, you know, this huge network of realtors that he knew from working in the industry, so he had a much bigger platform to sort of launch from than I did with just my cousin. But so he kind of gained steam a lot faster than I did and was off to the races, and his business grew fast. So we ran into him one night and we were talking about it, and you know, I met him sort of for the first time. We were talking about real estate photography, and he's like, hey, like, dude, like I've got more than I can handle right now. I'm looking for some help. You know, I can definitely throw you shoots every week, you know, if you're interested. So I was like, yeah, definitely. So it was at that time, this was around like 2014, I think, and it was around that time that, with his help supplementing me by throwing me shoots, I was finally able to quit all the part-time weird jobs that I had to do to make ends meet, and I was strictly just making a living with my camera in my hands. I was a full-time real estate photographer at that point, because I could have easily just done that, and I was doing it every single day pretty much, between my own clients and, you know, him throwing me some shoots and all that. So I was, you know, full-time at that point. I was still doing the wedding thing on the weekend, mainly just shooting, you know, a second shooter for other companies just to make a few $100 on the weekends, just because it was good money. And I kind of put to rest my own wedding video business. I wasn't pursuing it, even though I was doing a few here and there over the years because of just word of mouth and whatever. But I didn't want to have to deal with all the editing and everything, and I just wanted to focus on the real estate photography. So that's really what got me to be full-time, you know, was that. And from there on out, I just focused on building my company up and up and up, just, you know, gaining more and more clients. I never did any sort of advertising. It was just strictly word of mouth, and just, which is mostly how I think this business works, is recommendations from other people. So, you know, ever since then, my, you know, client base has grown and grown and grown, and, you know, things have grown since then. And, you know, it was nice then having that safety net of my friend Frank, by the way, runs the company Motion City Media here in New Jersey. We still are great friends to this day. So I got into the business sort of at an interesting time, because there wasn't really drone back then. There wasn't really the Matterport or any of these things. I don't think existed then. I don't believe. I'll have to check on when Matterport came out. I don't know. But it really was just about photos at the time. So I was able to sort of evolve with the industry, and it was kind of a cool way to come into it. And then, you know, obviously drones gained popularity, you know, throughout that time. And, you know, I started just implementing those skills and learning those and implementing them into my business as services. And of course, the video thing, as I explained, I have a huge video background, so that was great, because that was like something I was already pretty proficient in, and I was more of a videographer than a photographer, so that came naturally to me, and I was excited over the years to like build that up and get that product going, you know, and integrate it into my business. You know, back in the day, it was harder to implement. It wasn't as big of a thing back then as it is now with social media platforms and all that. I mean, those social media platforms existed then, but, you know, as far as content creation and all that stuff, that was sort of all gaining steam throughout those years in the early 2010s, like, you know, up to now. So, you know, it's been a cool journey, you know, seeing the evolution of the business. And, you know, I feel like it's I feel like a whole different world now than when I started. So that's really my journey up until now. It really has just been a concentration of, evolving with the business, as I just mentioned, and also building it up and making it grow from what since I went full time with it, about a decade ago until now. And I never really was interested in, sort of having a team and all that stuff. I've mentioned that before on this channel. I've always just remained a solo act because that's kind of how I like it. I like having a personal relationship with my clients, and, I like to be the one out shooting. I don't want to be, in an office running the business from behind the scenes. That's not me. I'm a creative. Like I said, I want to make a living with the camera in my hands. So that's why I never went the route of like trying to build a business with a team and multiple photographers. I don't know what the future holds, but that's never been really what I wanted. I'd rather raise prices and sort of, control my clients' population that way if I had to. If I got, if there was too many clients on board, I'd rather do that and sort of just work with the people who really value what I do and just maintain those relationships, close working relationships with the people. I'm out with them shooting, we talk, we build relationships. This is a relationship business. And I just enjoy, that aspect of it, and also the shooting part of it. So that's really my focus and really my love for this business. I really love what I do. I have to say, I can genuinely say that I go out and to work every day and I love it. I really do love it. It doesn't feel like work to me. Even after all these years, I really feel blessed and I really feel lucky, and I'm so grateful for what I do. And I'm sure many of you guys understand that if you're doing it full time. Like, I feel like the luckiest guy in the world sometimes, especially being that I had to work so many crappy jobs to keep myself afloat while I was getting this thing going, like after the TV thing ended. And I didn't even love that, but it was kind of grueling, so I was pretty miserable in a lot of aspects in all the previous things I did up until this point. That's also what I want to emphasize, and one message that I want to kind of get out in this video is for any of you guys starting out there, like, you just heard my story, like, it wasn't quick. Like, it was a process to get to a point where I was shooting real estate full time. And, it would have took even longer if it wasn't for my friend Frank throwing me some shoots so that I can just kind of completely concentrate on shooting real estate. So it wasn't, a fast thing for me. It is for other people. Like, like I said, my friend Frank, he had a big platform. He knew I had a lot of contacts. He was full time in no time. But I know it's different for everybody. And for me, it was more of a process. I had to work, these crazy jobs. I was like helping my friend on landscaping, doing like manual labor work. I was like delivering food. I was like working at a check cashing store that a friend of my mom's owned, like crazy stuff, anything to keep the thing going, making ends meet while I was pursuing something, a goal, that I wanted to achieve. And, it took me a little while to do it. And I hope you guys out there that are just starting out realize that it can take a little while. And if you stick with it, have conviction, and really want to get there, you will get there. All right, guys, so that's about it for this video. I hope I didn't bore you with my story. I hope you found it somewhat relatable, maybe entertaining. Hopefully, maybe you got some value out of it in some way. Please share some of your own story if you don't mind in the comments below, if you're, willing to share. I love to hear about other people's stories as well. And thank you for coming on this journey with me. This YouTube thing is all part of it as well. So, thank you guys. All right, guys, so thanks again so much for watching this video. Please check down the links in the description. I got a link to Pixelmob, the sponsor of this video, if you're looking for a outsourcing editor. They're a great resource for that. Also, I got links down there to editing practice packs that I've created, sky replacement packs, Photoshop actions and presets, things like that. A lot of great resources down there, so check that out. Thanks again so much for watching this video, and I'll see you again soon on the next one.